our, well, our commentator across in Tobago, Dr. Faith B. Israel.
Don't forget 𝐻𝐻𝐸, Secretary for Health and Wellness.
Yes. After months, we now have that title. It's good to see you again once more on the program, Dr. B. Israel. Welcome back.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you guys for having me. And yes, I am actually sitting in my office at the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. So yeah, here I am. It's wonderful being back.
Well, we're going to miss that turquoise wall and all the lovely flags and mugs in the background. But that's okay. A change of scenery, I suppose. Good morning. Welcome to the program. Glad to have you back once more. Straight into the conversation, actually. There are a few issues that we can discuss. It's relation to food prices in Tobago, in relation to Carnival in Tobago, and there's also that issue that was raised yesterday by Mr. Farley Augustine, Chief Secretary, who stated that the debt, the bookkeeping in Tobago by the former administration is, well, in shambles. And I think we should get into that topic first, because he's indicating that within the first month of the PDP being at the helm of the 𝐻𝐻𝐸, a contractor came forward with a bill of 100 million TT dollars with works he says that he has done. I know that one of the first things that Mr. Augustine did was come out and he was very open and honest. He did something that was actually quite unprecedented, and he actually gave the balance of the accounts that 𝐻𝐻𝐸 had. So how do you guys now plan on managing the debt that is incurred by the previous administration, as well as trying to satisfy the bills that this contractor and other contractors will bring forward?
You know, it's a juggling act. Every day, every single day, maybe every day is an exaggeration, but almost every day we get a new letter, a new email, a new correspondence that says, hey, you owe us money. And it's from little bills. And when I say little bills, we're talking about bills that are like maybe $20,000, $30,000 to millions of dollars. As a matter of fact, I was sitting in my office yesterday, this very chair, where we were having a conversation about some work that was done within the health sector that I assumed we had already paid for, because this was work that was done a year ago, 2 years ago, only to be told by my officers, no, we still owe for that, we still owe for that, we still owe for that. We haven't paid a cent of that. So it's one of those things that we have to take in strides. I guess this is exactly why we needed to be here at this time, to take a hold of this and to manage it. So what we're doing is basically planning how we can execute these kinds of repayments while still providing the services. And let me just give another example. One of the things one of the members of the media asked me yesterday was for individuals who had applied for rental assistance and food support because of COVID and had never gotten an answer, do they need to reapply? And I actually told them, no, they don't need to reapply, because I actually just started looking at files on my desk of individuals who were approved according to an assessment done by our social workers. And they were approved since June, July, and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened since then. So we have to go through the process of kind of looking through again, updating the information, ensuring that, you know, the vendors are still the same and that kind of thing. But we have to figure it out. We have to process this. And that's what we've been doing. We've spent quite a lot of time over this last, a little bit over a month, playing catch up and trying to figure out how we are going to clean up the mess that we found. It is what it is. That's why we're here.
Well, just a follow-up on that, because it would seem to me as though it looks like you were expecting to come in with one hand tied behind your back, and now you're discovering that no, both hands might actually be tied behind your back, because the minority leader, Kelvin Morris, he has criticized you in the media that you haven't implemented any new policies of your own. But given the fact that you had budget concerns with regards to paying for new projects before discovering this, how does that change the picture now with regards to moving forward?
Well, you know, I don't know that he can really say that we haven't done anything. Another statement that he's made, he's also made kind of conflicting statements. Another statement that he's made as it relates to health specifically is that we've been doing kind of what he calls low-hanging fruit. And I had to agree, yes, these were low-hanging fruit because they should have been done before. These were simple things that we could have started before that we simply did not do. And we are doing them within a month of being here. So yes, they are low-hanging fruit, but they're only low-hanging fruit because the organization he's a part of didn't do them over the last 2 years, at least as it relates to COVID, and certainly not over the last 21 years as it relates to them governing the island. So it is something that we think about. It's something that we've been strategizing. Many things we've recognized, and let me give you another example. We've recognized that since we've been here, that there have been actual technical people on staff who have real technical capacity that we have not been utilizing. And as soon as we came in, they said, you know what? I know this is what we had to do. I know this is what we've been paid to do. But by the way, we can do this, and this. Way more than what you have been asked, what we've been asked to do before. And we've said to them, okay, go ahead. You're already on staff. We're already paying you. Let's push you. Let's all work together to see what's the best that we can get from the people who are already on the ground. And they have started doing that. For example, one of the things we are rolling out shortly is a SMART, Show Me a Road Tobago, SMART. And in essence, it's going to be an app where individuals can pull up to a pothole, take a picture of it, send it to us. It will be geomapped so that we know exactly where that pothole is. That would be sent to the division with responsibility for infrastructure, and they can follow through, come fix the pothole. And the person who sent the original report is going to follow up the entire process for the entire period. And that is an app that in essence is being rolled out by people who were already employed by the Tobago House of Assembly, who already have the technical capacity to do that, but we were not allowing them to use their skills. So what we've done is actually come in and really tapped in to the technical people who were already on the ground, but were not being used effectively and efficiently. So that's why we are able to do some of the things that we are able to do, because we are rethinking how to use the resources that we already have.
Well, in relation to this report and details of the report that Mr. Gustin would have revealed yesterday, he's stating that it is the report of the previous administration. It has to be reassessed. Do you think it would have been best that it was reassessed and evaluated before making it public?
Well, when he said it was done by the previous administration, he means it was done by the technical people, so the accounting officers who were there. So that shows that it was not us coming in and probably inflating the figures or trying to make them look bad or anything like that. It was done by the technical people who were there doing the accounting. So these are their numbers. These aren't our numbers. These are the numbers that we've come in to see. So yes, we are going to continue doing our assessment, but this is what we found, and we thought it absolutely necessary to lay that bare so that Tobagonians will recognize this is where we are, this is what is happening, and really judge us based on the baseline we came into to see where we improved after that.
Well, Dr. B. Israel, I know you're stating that's how you all are going to work with what is left and the funds that are available to the current TG. You're going to see how best you can use it. But is the TG bankrupt? At this point, is the TG bankrupt?
Now, I would not use that word because that word has very specific meaning. So I would not use that word. But what we are doing is looking at all of the nooks and crannies, looking at all of the areas where we've had finances sitting, not implementing a project and so forth, and pooling those resources to use them for what we need now. What Mr. Farley Augustine also said yesterday was that we are going to probably for the very first time use the mid-year review to actually say to the central government, this is the current state of Tobago. Given that we've been funded and underfunded for several years, this is where we are in the mid-year review, and this is what we need moving forward. I am not sure that the Tobago House of Assembly has really used the mid-year review in that way to really say to the central government, this is what is happening and this is what we need. And we intend to do that very, very, in a strategic way, we intend to do that. So I would not use the word bankrupt, but we have to do some creative, I wouldn't say creative financing, but creative juggling. We have to think critically about where we are and what we need to do. And we have to think critically about what the resources we have on the ground so that we can use them effectively.
Well, speaking about central government, I mean, of course, it hasn't been too often, I assume, but how has communication been between essentially both parties now, political rivals, but ultimately have to work together in order to achieve good governance?
Well, it's actually surprisingly been very good. I think what we recognize is that both entities, and the Prime Minister said this on a political platform even before the election, that there are two executives in Trinidad and Tobago. One is the cabinet, the other is the Executive Council of the Tobago House of Assembly. And we've recognized that for these two, for the country, Trinidad and Tobago, to work effectively, the members of these two executives need to have a good working relationship. Thus far, I can actually say that in practically every instance, and I honestly can't think of an instance where the relationship seems strained or it seems like it will not be fruitful. We've had very, very fruitful communications. The Prime Minister, for example, has actually met, they had a breakfast meeting a couple of days ago with the Chief Secretary. I have had meetings with the Minister for Health. He calls me if he needs any information or if we need to communicate. I call him on his cell phone if we need to communicate. And that is how it's been with all of the line secretaries and ministers thus far. So we envision actually a very good working relationship. One of the things that Chief Sec said yesterday is that right after we won, just before Christmas, he actually met his team in finance, because he's also the secretary with responsibility for finance, met with the Minister of Finance, Mr. Imbert, and they had a very, very fruitful conversation that has actually resulted in us getting our monies at least way better than what we've been doing for the last couple of years. For the last couple of years, we've been getting the monies every month, when in fact it should have been once per quarter for the entire quarter. Because of the conversation between them, we recognized and we came to a happy medium where we actually got our monies first 2 months, so we have a month in advance. And by the time we are getting to the third month, that money would already scheduled be in Tobago. So we've already been in a better position because of that kind of mature conversation between Trinidad and Tobago, and we expect that to continue. This country is made up of two islands. The two islands have to do well for the country to do well, and we all recognize that.
Well, Dr. Israel, in relation to the communication aspect, the information that the new Teacher Executive has given to the public, revealed to the public over the last month or so in relation to finances and accounts, as I said, it's unprecedented. We have not really seen that before from any administration, be it in Trinidad or Tobago. But adding to that, people may say, and we have to, be fair and recognize that people will say, it's just the PDP trying to politicize the matter even further. The election campaign is over. There's no need for this to be done. On that note, it's one thing for the THs to be accountable to the people in relation to the former administration, but going forward, how does the administration, knowing that there's only one individual in opposition, I suppose, on the part of the PNM, how does the PDP be accountable upon themselves? And I'll give you a reference. For example, in Barbados, Prime Minister Mia Mottley has stated that she will be her government's biggest opposition because of the 30-0. So in relation to the PDP, how are they going to be accountable upon themselves? Are we going to see things like annual administrative reports? Are we going to see accounting figures and verified reports from perhaps independent autonomous organizations? How could the people trust the PDP going forward?
Well, several things. One, we do actually have, unlike Barbados, we actually have an elected minority. We have a minority council, which includes two individuals, the minority leader and the minority councillor. So we have already built in a minority within the system. One of the things that the Chief Secretary also said yesterday is that we are going to ensure that we have our Public Accounts Committee be up and running. While we were in the minority, and that is a committee that is run by the minority leader. The minority leader chairs that committee. While we were in the minority, we tried to have public accounts committees continually, but members who were in the executive simply refused to show up, so we could not have gotten a quorum. The Chief Secretary yesterday gave a very public commitment that our members will show up to that public accounts committee that is chaired by the minority leader, and we will participate in that. He has also said, because one of the things we went through when we were doing our retreat a couple of weeks ago was going through the procurement, the new procurement legislation that has been wallowing in Trinidad and all of that before. We have given a commitment, even though that procurement regulation has not gotten to the final stage of being absolute law, we are going to use the mechanism that is outlined in that in Tobago, whether it is law or not, because we need to do it the correct way. So we've made those kinds of public commentary, and if it's one thing I don't think people recognize is that Chief Secretary Farley is one who, when he says he's doing something, he does it. When he says he expects us, and one of the things he did say very publicly yesterday, he's told us privately, but he said it again very publicly yesterday, that he does not expect his executive to be an executive that does not work and does not function. And he's very willingly going to switch us out and get rid of anyone who is not doing what needs to happen. And believe me, when he says that, we know that he means it, and he will act on it if necessary. So we don't have to be worried. We have made public commitments to keep those mechanisms in place, and we will do it.
Shifting the conversation across now from finance and accounts to perhaps a lighter topic, if we may, the COVID-19 situation in Tobago. It seems to have obviously gotten a bit better. There's still, of course, a bit of high numbers, as not where we would like it to be, of course. But I use that to start this topic because the conversation of Carnival in the last few weeks has become more and more lit. Good use of word.
I don't know, Keaton.
Anyway.
This whole conversation, part of the conversation is...
Dr. B. Israel, the plans for Carnival across Trinidad and Tobago, do you support it? Do you think that at this point in time it's something that's rushed and unnecessary? Or do you think that after a year without Carnival, or perhaps by extension a year and a half, that we should start to see more activities take place as we try to open up and progress out of the pandemic?
So we need to realize that COVID-19, as much as we wanted it to be gone by the beginning of last year, it is still here. And it will be with us for quite some time. And we need to figure out how to live with COVID-19. The issue about Carnival is one that we have to think about critically. And when I say think about it critically, it's not a matter of yes or no, it's a matter of if we say yes, we need to ensure that we have the mechanisms in place to make it safe. If we are talking about Carnival events being safer zones, meaning that individuals need to be vaccinated, individuals need to continue wearing their masks, and we need to add an additional component. Individuals need to be tested before they enter these events, or at least a day or so before they enter these events, because that is what has been happening in other jurisdictions, in Florida, in other places where we've had, Carnival events. All of those mechanisms were in place. So that is something that if we really are going to do it, we have to make sure we do it the right way. We also have to ensure that we have the medical response available to treat with any possible backlash that can happen as a result of that. And that's actually one of the things we've been working on in Tobago, to ensure that we are able to, one, ramp up our testing so that people can get tested quicker, people can get tested closer to where they live, and ensure that when they do get sick, if they need medical care, that we can provide that care in a system that actually works. Let me also do a quick plug. Another thing we've actually done in Tobago is create some short videos we worked very closely with the physiotherapy department, because one of the things we recognize is that most people with COVID do not need to be hospitalized. They are at home taking care of themselves. But there are simple exercises, simple breathing exercises that they can do to help them recover from COVID, to help them breathe, to help them go through the process at home. And what we've done is actually work very closely with our physiotherapy department to roll out, to create at least, I think it's about 5 of those videos where they're showing you how to breathe. You're at home, this is how you lie, this is how you stand, this is how you sit, and this is how you do things like breath stacking and that kind of thing, which is helping individuals recover from COVID. If you go to our Facebook page, the Division's Facebook page or the Division's YouTube channel, you will see those videos. So creating systems like that is what we need to do to collectively ensure that even if we have carnival or if we have any other event that we do in a safer space, that the event happens safely, but that we can respond if there is an increase in cases as a result of those activities.
Well, we have been receiving your division's reports, daily reports, but just so we could get a little bit better context, because not as familiar with the ratios, I guess you could say, for Tobago. Has the situation been starting to improve? Because in Trinidad, at least, the overall national picture at times looks like it's up and down, but generally it's at least a little bit better than it was maybe a couple months ago. What about Tobago?
Yes, the situation is better in Tobago thus far. November and December were our deadliest months, and so far in January it seems like we've actually been able to reduce those numbers thus far. So that is an amazing thing. That's a good thing. So it is getting better. Of course, with Omicron, we expect it, as everywhere else, that there would be an additional wave and then we would come back down again. We have to just follow the numbers to see where Omicron is going. And we also recognize that there's actually a new strain of Omicron that they are seeing in other parts of the world that we need to also look out for here to see what that does for us. But right now, for January, we have gotten better results thus far as it relates to our infection rates, as it relates to our death rates, as it relates to COVID-19 in Tobago. And I am very, very happy about that.
Stealth Omicron, I think that's what you're referring to, Dr. B. Israel. Certainly something that is concerning, but we shouldn't be too alarmed as yet. We'll wait for more information to come out before, of course, revealing that to the public. But as we look to wrap things up, we don't have much time again, but we can see a carnival taking place. I mean, the one thing in Tobago is that a lot more things have opened up. We're now seeing tourists returning to the island. I believe next week, Monday, is going to be the first flight from one major airline, Virgin Atlantic, to the island, the first in what, a year or so.
Yes.
But beyond that, COVID-19 management really stems from central government, and I know that the 𝐻𝐻𝐴 is definitely playing its role and its part with the powers that it has, whether that's limited or not. But in relation to that, in terms of managing the pandemic going forward, as we continue to open up and as we continue to progress, more so as we see more tourists coming onto the island, is Tobago prepared? I know at one point you all had to have a separate container in order to store COVID-19 bodies. Is Tobago prepared for the worst?
So yes, we are getting there. We are not quite there yet. We have been ramping up the parallel system that is being rolled out right now. So the Tobago House of Assembly is responsible for managing the healthcare system in Tobago. That is why, for example, if the minister is asked a question in Parliament, he actually has to call either me or one of my technical officers to get the answer as it relates to what is happening in Tobago. So we are responsible for that. And we have been ramping it up. We've had some delays because of shipping delays and that kind of thing with implementing, for example, the ICU that we would be using specifically for COVID patients, for doing some of the additional work that we need as it relates to the high the HDU care and that kind of thing. That kind of stuff is coming. It is coming. It's coming by the middle of February. Close to the end of February, we should have a real parallel system where the individuals who have COVID would be treated at a completely separate facility. That is what we are working on. But those things are taking time in terms of getting some of the equipment in and so forth. That is happening. It's happening slower than I would like, but I recognize that we are in a world that is interconnected, and I know we can't force a ship to come if it's on its way. So those are the things that we have to treat with. But it is coming, it is happening, and it is getting better.
Certainly. Dr. B. Israel, I do apologize. I have one more question very quickly. I know we're pressed for time, but we don't often do this on Talking Point, but an individual has actually commented via our live stream, and I think it's a good question, so I will ask it to you. He's asking, he says, good morning, is there anything that the government can be complimented for?
As in the government of Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, central government, and I would also assume the former administration of the TG.
Well, I mean, as I talk about the government of Trinidad and Tobago, as I've said thus far, we have had a very good working relationship with them thus far. And because we've had a very good working relationship, as I said, I'm in my office, people are coming in now. We have been able to have that very good working relationship. And even though we are from different political teams, we are here, we are working. And that is something that I think needs to be complemented, because both sides could have had a standoffish, kind of relationship. I'm not talking to you, you're not talking to me. And that would have been bad. So that definitely needs to be complemented.
Well, Dr. B. Israel, thank you very much. It's been quite some time, but you came on the program this morning, you dedicated a lot of time, and it's so good hearing from you again. So as you continue to work hard, and we hope to have you on the program more often, best of luck to you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Always a pleasure. Keep safe, keep well, Dr. B. Israel.
Thanks, bye.
Bye-bye.
Secretary of Health, Wellness and Social Services. Folks,